Welcome into the Fade. I am Clay Travis. He is Todd Furman. We are rolling through everything going on in the world, primarily right now, the NFL. And Furman, I would say the biggest challenge right now, it's deja vu all over again, as I think Yogi Berra once said, COVID. You don't know who's going to be eligible to play. The lines can swing massively based on whether or not a quarterback in particular is going to be able to play. You can stack up position group issues like has happened recently with the Miami Dolphins at the running back position. It's just really hard to bet on any of these games right now in a reliable way because you just flat out don't know who's going to be playing.
Oh, it's changed the dynamic quite a bit, and we've almost reverted back to our betting patterns for the 2020-2021 season, where I would take smaller positions early in the week when I thought a number was out of line with my projections and where I thought the spread should open, and then gradually add to that particular game throughout the course of the week if the numbers were still within reach. Now it doesn't benefit anybody to move early unless you happen to have that intel before it's made public. And in a lot of these games, we've seen wild swings already this week. Philadelphia from 3.5 out to 9.5 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. You've seen the Cleveland Browns go from 6.5 point favorites into the underdog role. The Rams and Seahawks, we're starting to see some movement on Monday night. So it's really risk reward in terms of how aggressive you want to be attacking these numbers, 4 or 5 days before kickoff.
All right, let's go Thursday Night Football. Obviously, a really interesting game for anybody out there that has followed either of these teams. Divisional matchup, AFC West. The Chiefs are white hot. 3-point favorites on the road against the Chargers. Over under 53.5. I think I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs here, Furman, and probably the under, even though I know that that both teams have explosive offenses, because while the Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and everybody on the Chiefs offense gets a lot of attention, it's really their defense that's up the performance in a big way. So I'm on the Chiefs and the under. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, this defense has been outstanding over the course of this Chiefs winning streak. They've held almost every opponent at bay. I mean, you look at the last 3 opponents, 10 points or less. They've truly been dynamic. And a lot of that stems from their ability to get after the quarterback, although that'll take a bit of a hit today. Chris Jones not available. So gone are his 7 sacks and his nearly 50 yards in quarterback sack yardage that he's accounted for this season. So I think that gives Justin Herbert and company a little bit of a breath of fresh air. You look at the first meeting between these teams, a game that the Chargers went into Arrowhead and won. Herbert 4 touchdown passes and was dynamic in the way he distributed the football. On the other side, Patrick Mahomes struggled a little bit with interceptions, but at the same time, in my opinion, there weren't throws that fell entirely on him as much as the receiving core. This total has taken off. I mean, it opened as low as 49.5. We're now out to that 53.5 range. Wouldn't be surprised if it got to 54. I think that's out of my window to try and bet this game over the total, but I will look at the first half. I think both of these offenses need to come out and play with a sense of urgency early on. This is a Chargers team who will wait till kickoff to see if Derwin James and Asante Samuel Jr. will be out there in the secondary. But the Chargers' best shot here is to outscore the Chiefs, because I don't think that defense can hold up if Kansas City starts rolling downhill. And to your point, they've struggled immensely for stretches, but I think this is the kind of defense they can attack in space, brimming with a bit of confidence after that outburst against the Raiders. I think we're talking about a track meet early, so I'll go over 26.5 in the first half. I think 3 is an extremely fair number on the side, and I think the full game total's already been bet up to the point where there's not a whole lot of value if you want to go over. But to your point, going under 54, I think makes a ton of sense.
All right, the Raiders-Browns, we just talked about the difficulty of projecting and planning for games. The Browns, I believe, you tell me if I was wrong, Furman, had gotten out to a several-point favorite. Now with Baker Mayfield out and all, who knows who else is not going to be able to play for Saturday's game. The Raiders are a small favorite, at least right now, as I look at FanDuel, over-under all the way down to 38.5. How do you play this one at this point?
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot more than just Baker Mayfield, because if it was only Baker, you'd be talking about maybe a field goal drop-off most to Case Keenum, given the fact that Baker hasn't been anything better than 65 to 70% of his normal self so far this season. But when you talk about cluster injuries and a lot of the other playmakers, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, it raises some major concerns about how thin the Cleveland Browns are and how some of that secondary depth is going to be called into action in a game of this magnitude. The Raiders, though, second straight road game. They didn't show a whole heck of a lot last week against Kansas City. I mean, they were out of that game by the end of the first quarter. We'll see what they bring to the table this week. Darren Waller appears to be a long shot if he's going to have a chance to play at all. So the Raiders will be down some playmakers. And as always, this time of year, expect some weather in the forecast in Cleveland. It looks like it's going to be 20 to 25 mile an hour wind gusts, maybe a little wet stuff coming down. Oh, you know me. This time of year, I'm rooting for weather all over the landscape. Problem being is this total 43.5 down to 38.5. So there's not a whole lot of wiggle room there. I actually think the Browns, even with all the players that may not be available at +1, the market is overreacted. So it would be a small value play, or I could see people, teasing them up to 7 or maybe even a shade higher on the FanDuel Sportsbook app.
Patriots-Colts. This is another Saturday game, a Saturday night game. Colts have held right around that 2.5-point favorite line. May surprise some people just because the Patriots have won, I believe, 7 games in a row. How do you play Patriots-Colts in your mind? These, again, Thursday night football we've already talked about. Then you've got 2 Saturday games before the Sunday games happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the number here, it tells a pretty strong story about how the Colts have been undervalued by a lot of recreational bettors. Meanwhile, you look at their offense, and over the last 5 weeks, they've been the most prolific in scoring points in the entire National Football League. And while I know the numbers are propped up a bit by a game against the Jets, you look at what they did against Tampa, and they had a chance to really put a nail in Tampa's coffin at home before it was a Carson Wentz fumble that allowed the Bucs to battle back in a game where Leonard Fournette ripped off a touchdown run to win 38-31. But it's not just Jonathan Taylor running behind a talented offensive line. Carson Wentz looks to be a lot more comfortable in Indianapolis than he was at Philly at all last year. And a lot of that is because he's being protected. Frank Reich has put him in a position where he can go out there and work to his skill set. And I think that they're going to put some stress and strain on this New England defense that while they've been great during this winning streak, I do wonder how much they've truly been tested. And on the other side of the ball, I think Mac Jones is obviously going to have to do a little bit more than throwing the football 3 times like he did the last time we saw the Patriots on Monday Night Football. I think both of these offenses can move it up and down on one another. I think the total was a little bit low where it opened at 44. And I like the Colts quite a bit, but I wouldn't be inclined to bet them laying the 2.5. I'd back them on the money line here. I think they make a statement on Saturday, and I would not be surprised at all, Clay, if they go on the road a week from Saturday and upset the Cardinals en route to trying to show that they're going to be a legitimate threat in the AFC playoff picture this year.
Lots of big numbers on these games this weekend. I'm just going to run through a bunch of these big number games for you. Philly all the way out to nearly a 10-point lead. Again, the Washington football team, lots of COVID issues. The Bills are over a 10-point favorite. The Miami Dolphins are nearly a 10-point favorite over the Jets. The Cowboys are nearly an 11-point favorite over the Giants. And we got the Cardinals 13-point favorites. 49ers 9.5-point favorites. I mean, these are big numbers, Furman. Sunday night football, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the Bucs all the way out to an 11-point favorite. Do you like any of these underdogs, or do you like any of these big favorites in any kind of substantial way?
Well, first things first, Sunday Night Football, it looks like we're going to have 3 straight weeks, if you include this Sunday and potentially next Sunday, of double-digit favorites. So what has typically been the crown jewel on the NFL schedule each week, we're not getting that with some of these marquee brands struggling and NBC's reluctance to kind of flex them out. But if you're trying to make a case for any of the dogs this week, I think the Lions catching 13.5 makes some sense. I mean, Arizona on a short week, you wonder how they're going to bounce back and if they play with a sense of purpose. I know they've been much better in terms of covering numbers and with their final point per game margin on the road than they have been at home. But the Lions should be healthier than what we saw last week. I know no TJ Hawkinson still or DeAndre Swift, but Arizona, in my opinion, could be a little bit hungover. I mean, they should be extremely disappointed with the effort they put forth against the Rams, knowing that if it wasn't for a Kyler Murray interception early, they have a chance to build a 10-point lead, and then that game probably goes much differently. This is a Lions team that was undermanned against Denver, but it hasn't been for a lack of effort or intensity. So I like the Lions catching the points in that spot. As far as some of the other double-digit dogs, I want no part of backing Mike Glennon. I'm not sure I want Washington playing with their B-leaguers and C-listers. That'll be out there. And then when you look at Sunday Night Football, I think a lot of people will try and make a case for the Saints, given how good they've been against Tampa. But I wonder under their current construct with a one-dimensional quarterback in Taysom Hill, how much stress and pressure they can put on a Bucs defense, knowing that Tampa's playing with a little bit of revenge for a game they lost in the Superdome outright as a 4-point favorite.
Instead of getting coal for the holidays, something Todd Furman knows about, he's had a lot of it over the years, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile will make sure that you get a great deal. How about getting Pure Talk hooked up right now? Take advantage of the opportunity out here and switch to Pure Talk, where you get nationwide 5G coverage. Same coverage as the big guys, but the average family will save over $800 a year. I'm a customer. I wouldn't tell you to use the service I'm not completely happy with. I've had these guys in my house sitting at my table explaining why they make so much sense for so many of you. You get unlimited talk, text, 6 gigs of data for just $30 a month. And if you want to buy a brand new phone, you can get the iPhone 12 for just $479. Or you can stick with your existing phone and your existing phone number. How do you save up to $800 for you and your family? Go to puretalk.com, shop for the plan and the phone that's right for you, enter the promo code OUTKICK, and you save an additional 50% off your first month. Plus, you can save, as we said, on a new phone. Go check it out today, puretalk.com, promo code OUTKICK. Some restrictions apply. See site for details. Todd Furman, my team, the Tennessee Titans, on the road against
We
the
still have to talk
Pittsburgh
about
Steelers.
this team?
We got to talk about it.
Is still a thing?
Honestly, it's one of
Go
the
ahead.
best games out there this week. Because,
Yeah, it's
as
not
I
saying a whole
said,
lot.
there's so many lines of near double digits. Titans are a 1-point road favorite against the Steelers. I think this line opened at 2 most places. Means there's been a little bit of money coming in on the Steelers. How do you assess this one?
Yeah, I like the Steelers here. I mean, I think for me, it's the only way to look is the Steelers have some extra time to prepare for this particular matchup. I know their defense leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, their inability to stop the run is well chronicled. I mean, they gave up more than 200 yards against Dalvin Cook and the Vikings the last time we saw them. It was actually the second worst run defense performance that the Steelers have put forth under Mike Tomlin. But when you look at this Steelers team, they've been outstanding when they're catching points in their own building. Now, there is a good chance that that trend may not apply if the Steelers close a 1-point favorite. But, I mean, they're 6-0 against the spread as a home underdog since the start of 2018. Big Ben 9-2 straight up and against the spread, catching points at Heinz Field. And while the Steelers season kind of hangs in the balance, I think you're going to get a little bit more desperation from them in this spot than you will the Titans. I mean, unless the Titans completely implode and the Colts get white hot, I don't see a scenario where Tennessee ends up squandering the division lead in the AFC South. Last week, offensively, there wasn't a whole lot to get excited about. Your boy Julio Jones, 4 catches, 33 yards. Whippy as a number 1 receiving threat. Deontay Foreman as a true number 1 with Dontrell Hilliard. I don't think they're going to be able to put the same stress and pressure on that Steelers defensive line. So I like the Steelers to hold serve in their own building, and I'm fully on board with this total. It's been bet up from 41.5 out to 43.
All right, there's some other interesting lines here. Bengals on the road against the Broncos, 2.5-point underdog. We don't really know what's going on with Lamar Jackson's health. The Packers on the road, a 5.5-point favorite in that game. Sunday Night Football, Rams, a fairly substantial 5.5-point favorite over the Seahawks. And in what should be a really wild, ridiculous game, I'll give you my Outkick Six Pack here in a moment. The Jags are a 5-point favorite against the Texans, even though they just fired their head coach, Urban Meyer. What do you see in some of those games? Anything that stands out to you there?
Well, I want to know if Outkick's going to extend a job offer to Urban Meyer. I mean, Urban's going to be unemployed for a little while, so I feel, given the relationship that the two of you have built over the years, he'd be a logical fit to add to your college football coverage. So is there any truth to the rumor?
Could happen. I mean, Urban is a big fan of Outkick. He's got great taste. So who knows what might happen. The question I have, honestly, is was he fired for cause, or are they going to pay him out all of the money that he was owed under his contract? It's going to actually be an interesting argument there because even, honestly, Urban Meyer getting fired like he did, Shad Khan already knew about this incident with the kicker, Josh Lambo, I believe. It only did he take action when the story went public, right? So he had already been evidently briefed on all this beforehand. So if I'm Urban Meyer, I'm saying, wait a minute, we investigated this, you signed off on it. I want to get my full payout. That would be my thought if I were Urban Meyer and I had officially signed a contract and I was getting fired less than a year in. But what a mess this whole thing is going to be.
Oh, I mean, I think Jacksonville had to go in a different direction. I mean, when all the players in the locker room are rebelling against the head coach, you look for any reason you can to cut ties. So Shad Khan doing this sooner rather than later, I think opens up the possibility of bringing in a new head coach, or at least creating a little bit of optimism for a fan base, knowing that I'm sure season ticket renewals and everything else are hanging in the balance going forward, plus a ton of cap room there. So you'd think it would be an attractive landing spot, even given the organizational dysfunction, to bring in a new head coach and a GM that can rebuild this team a little bit. But as far as that number, crazy to think that Urban gets fired, number goes from 3.5, 4 out to 5, 5.5, that this team will suddenly play better. You can understand that, hey, look, they may want to go out there and play inspired. At the same time, I'm not laying points with the Jags. When you look at some of the other games you mentioned, Rams, Seahawks, I'm not sure who's going to be available for either team. Tyler Lockett and Alex Collins added to the reserve list. The Rams, we're not sure who's going to be out there for them. So it creates a real problem in that particular situation. And when you look at some of the other games that are out there on the board, that Green Bay-Baltimore game, Lamar Jackson, it's wait and see. And this is kind of a hybrid number, because if Lamar was 100% going to be in, you'd be looking at Green Bay in that 2.5, 3 range. If Lamar was 100% out, Green Bay closes more than a touchdown favorite in this spot, especially knowing that the Ravens defense is taking on water week by week. So tough game to handicap at this point. When you go through some of the others here, and I want to make sure I don't leave anything out, the Bengals-Broncos, I think, is an interesting game because both teams can control their own destiny in the AFC playoff picture. And the Bengals have struggled each of the last 2 weeks. I mean, we know how talented Joe Burrow is, but Zach Taylor with some poor in-game decision-making really cost them. And Denver, they're playing better football. They're getting healthy on the defensive side. They have a ton of talent at the defensive back position, which I think will pose some problems for the Bengals. Bengals banged up on the offensive line. We're not quite sure if the defensive line will be intact. So I fully can see why Denver has taken money here, and I would not be shocked if the Broncos close a 3-point favorite everywhere. So I like the Broncos to win at Mile High Stadium this weekend. I think they'll be able to go out there and make the move to get them one step closer to securing a wild card berth in the AFC.
Talk about my 6 picks and see what Furman thinks of the Outkick Six Pack. But I want to tell you right now, Competitive Cyclist is the online specialty retailer of road and mountain bikes, components, apparel, and accessories. All the best brands, unrivaled in-house bike assembly operation. They bring the personal attention of the best local bike shops, along with the selection and convenience only possible when you shop online. Real difference, however, the gearheads, equal parts customer service, and cycling fanatics. If you're out there trying to buy a new bike, gearheads are former pro athletes, Olympians, and seasoned cyclists. Years of experience, all available by phone, email, or chat for product recommendations, hard-won advice. Plus, Competitive Cyclist has 100% guaranteed returns. Go to competitivecyclist.com/Clay and enter the promo code, my name, Clay, to get 15% off your first full-priced purchase, plus free shipping on orders of $50 or more. Some exclusions apply, but go right now, 15% off plus free shipping at competitivecyclist.com/Clay. Enter the promo code Clay, that's my name, CLAY. Competitivecyclist.com/Clay. Some exclusions apply. All right, Furman. I'm going to make you rich. Get your pen. Write down exactly what I am betting on.
They do call, hold on, I'm going to get my pen. They do call this show The Fade for a reason. So if you go 0-6, it's going to make me a small fortune, and I can buy extremely luxurious gifts for all of my fiance's family for Christmas next week.
So far, I've been pretty good on the Outkick Six Pack. We've got I've got to look at the latest numbers, but I haven't done worse than 2-4. Coming off a 3-3 last week. By the way, a 3-3 last week, Furman, that included a brutal beat in that Browns game against the Ravens. I had the Browns.
Should have gone Browns money line. Taking that back door out of the equation.
And they won by 2 after giving up a 24-3 lead on a late touchdown. All right, here's what I got. I got the under on Chiefs-Chargers. This number is taken off. I'm going under 53.5. I might be the only person going under on Thursday Night Football. I've got the Colts minus 2.5 against the Patriots on Saturday. I've got the Jets-Dolphins under 41. Texans-Jags over 39. This is an unbelievably low number. I think this is a Bud Kilmer special where the Jags come out without Urban Meyer and just go total balls to the wall.
I'm not sure they're going to run a play for Darrell Bevel, but continue. Go ahead.
Bengals plus the points, the exact opposite of what you said against the Broncos, and Falcons plus the points against the 49ers. That is the Outkick Six Pack. Anything, we know you disagree on Bengals Broncos. Anything you like or dislike among those six?
You know what? Can we get FanDuel to post an over-under each week on the six-pack? Like, set the over-under at 3.5, and I can bet for you or against you to at least make some of these people that tune in every week some money here. So when I look at this, when I look at this, I agree with you on the Colts. I have no problem with you going under the bloated total now in Kansas City. The Jets under makes some sense, especially now that the Dolphins are down another playmaker in Jalen Waddle, which I believe will hurt your fantasy team going forward in the playoffs this weekend.
My team has got the worst health imaginable. The fact that I'm in the playoffs at all is incredible.
Well, I have nothing to worry about because in the first season in league history, my team is on the outside looking in, so I can't say a whole lot or take shots here. Jags over does make some sense. I'm not sure if the Jags offense is capable of going nuclear like you talked about, but Davis Mills should have some time in the pocket. I can see making a case for two teams kind of playing out the string, having some fun out there. Bengals, I disagree. And the Falcons would make some sense if it got to 10. I can tell you saw professional money come in on the 49ers. The Niners are an interesting case because they're kind of the NFC version of the Colts, that professional bettors like them a lot more than the betting market. We saw that last week with how they were bet against the Bengals. And I would say that's a team in the NFC that the favorites don't want to draw in the playoffs should they get in, the same way that AFC contenders shouldn't want to see the Colts on their schedule. So if you're looking for futures and long shots, those would probably be the two teams that I think are undervalued and make some sense if you're looking to catch lightning in a bottle and want a team to root for in the playoffs.
Yeah, by the way, the look ahead, and we'll talk on Thursday. We won't do a fade on Monday because I'm headed down to Key West. So on Thursday, we'll record before I go. Yeah, lucky for you. You don't have to do the show on Monday, but we'll record with the 49ers coming to town against the Titans. That's a pretty good Thursday night football game. I think I'm going to be there.
Will you be in attendance?
Yes.
Obviously, you're taking the whole family on Thursday night, right?
I think the whole family will be there on Thursday night. So
can't wait for the 49ers
Titans. Yeah, hopefully we'll have a good Christmas there.
I can't wait for the 49ers to win that game.
By the way, anybody that you like, first TDs, anything that jumps out about tonight's game?
You know, I'll take Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. I think we've seen quarterbacks when the stakes get ratcheted up, oftentimes on these standalone primetime games, still undervalued in the first touchdown scorer market. So I would dabble a little bit on both of those guys. Nothing substantial, but I think if you're talking a goal-to-go situation, quarterbacks' legs become one of the more underappreciated commodities there, and both these guys not afraid to take off from the pocket. So I would look at both quarterbacks to score first touchdowns, knowing that rushing is very much on the table for both of them.
Todd Furman, good stuff as always. Talk to you a week from today when it'll be almost Christmas season.
Hey, hold on one second. We got a bunch of junk bowl games to go on Friday and Saturday. You got any
I don't even know. I haven't even looked. What are the bowl games going on?
All right, we got Toledo and Middle Tennessee, a game that kicks off at 11 Central tomorrow for you in the Bahamas, where I know you're a big celebrity when you go into the Caribbean, given your past.
Yeah,
Coastal Carolina and.
By the way, how is it? I always think this all the time, by the way. But does nobody else work in this country that they just start bowl games? Not even, like, I understand next week a little bit because you're a couple of days out from Christmas. I mean, we're a full 8 days out from Christmas, and they're just playing games at noon now?
I'm surprised. I mean, when you look at the bowl schedule, I mean, I guess they didn't want to go head-to-head with the FCS playoffs. So you're talking about a bowl game between Toledo and Middle Tennessee at noon Eastern. Then you have Coastal and NIU at 6
Man, you're
Eastern.
right. I hadn't even looked at this. There are a ton of bowl games going on.
And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 7 by my count with FCS playoff games. I want to know, though, more importantly, how come Jimmy Kimmel and Cousin Sal didn't extend an invite for you and I to go to the inaugural Jimmy Kimmel Bowl?
It's a great question.
I feel like we should be out there for the coin flip.
I should be doing sideline reporting. By the way, yeah, we should have definitely gotten an invite there. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Am I right? 8 different games going on Friday and Saturday now?
You have 8 college football games in total on Saturday. That includes the Celebration Bowl between South Carolina State and Jackson State. And it also includes the FCS playoff game. You have one on Friday night. So plenty of action there. And I guess if I had to pick one bowl game of all of them, I could see NIU being a live dog against Coastal. I haven't bet it yet, but I think they make some sense catching 11. I'm not sure Coastal really cares that much about the Cure Bowl, where this NIU team has kind of surprised a lot of folks, winning the MAC this year with an extremely young roster. But speaking of college football, how about Jackson State and what they pulled off as far as flipping Travis Hunter from Florida State, the rumblings that they may flip some guys from Texas A&M. I mean, if Barstool and Penn are pumping money into building college football dynamos, when is Outkick going to start pumping money into Tennessee and get Josh Heupel into the national championship?
Yeah, there's been some questions about whether I'm willing to buy players or not. So far, I have not. My thing is, I think a lot of these players are going to be, because look, NIL is fine. You know me, Furman. I'm the ultimate capitalist. I want people to make as much money off their labor as they possibly can. But here's what I don't think has been talked about enough. You're now talking about the combination of name, image, and likeness money with unrestricted free agency.
Yep.
And let me explain. I haven't heard anybody talking about this potentiality. But let's say that Jackson State is giving this kid $1 million to come play for them instead of Florida State. What's to stop him, depending on how the payment goes, from going for 1 year to Jackson State, taking that payment, and then going back into the transfer portal as a sophomore after he's proven that he's a pretty good college player, which seems likely at an FCS level, and then being able to potentially put his services on the market for a big FBS school? In other words, I don't think people have thought as much about the ability to double or triple dip on a seasonal basis for a lot of these top college football players. Now that you have effectively free agency in college football and you have the ability to profit as much as you possibly can, what's to stop a guy from getting 3 different fan bases, paying big money for him to play for 3 or maybe even 4 different teams over the course of his career?
I mean, absolutely nothing. And I mean, I've drawn some heat because, I don't try and delve into a lot of the political realm like you. It's not an area I feel comfortable with by any stretch, but as it pertains to collegiate athletics, I'm all for these kids getting paid. The problem being is this was put together so hastily by the NCAA and the parties that be, that there are no governors on this. There are no regulations. There are no restrictions. And all of a sudden you allow corporations to infiltrate college athletics on a variety of levels. And is there no vetting going on in terms of where you're going to put some of the checks and balances in, whether it's a gaming company, whether it's, a small entrepreneurial campaign? What's to stop some of the unsavory elements getting into college sports and really impacting things in a negative fashion, let alone the fact that you're now empowering, 17, 18, 19, and 20-year-old athletes, not just in college football, but on the men's and women's side that have God complexes. How is the school going to tell them that they have to attend class or they have to stay academically eligible, knowing that boosters are going to withhold money? They're going to change the dynamics and the power structures there. And I think Peter Burns of the SEC Network brought up an excellent point yesterday. Johnny Manziel, Clay, probably would have made more money to stay on campus at Texas A&M with a chance to win a second Heisman. There's no doubt in my mind that A&M boosters could have ponied up more cash than what Johnny Manziel was able to get as a first-round draft pick on his rookie contract. So while that may sound like a great thing in theory, you begin to wonder the dynamics in play. And I'll go one step further. And I think college football and maybe college basketball to a lesser extent is heading down a path in 10 to 12 years that's going to look nothing like we've grown accustomed to. And we're much closer to some of the European soccer academies and the minor league systems that you see everywhere else in the world. So buyer beware in all this. It's great to get these athletes paid, and I think they deserve a piece of the pie, knowing how much everybody is making off their labor. But for those of us that love collegiate sports under their current construct, I'm not sure they're going to look the same 10 or 15 years from now.
I think it's an interesting question, and I don't think anybody's really thought about the long-range implications of how this is going to play out. The money, again, I'm a capitalist, but combining it with unrestricted free agency, I think is going to create some unexpected outcomes and a lot of players that are going to multiple different schools and potentially signing deals. We're already seeing it a little bit, Furman. The Quinn Ewers, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Top quarterback. Yep. I might have mispronounced it, but he's top quarterback from Texas. Went to Ohio State, signed a big deal with a local car dealership, I think in Columbus, Ohio. And then now he's gone back and committed to a school in Texas, the University of Texas. So in the space of 6 months, he's going to double dip potentially, get money out of Ohio in the Big Ten, and now come back in the Big 12, soon to be the SEC, and signing up for the University of Texas.
Yeah, it is a scary prospect to think about. And, every kid should have a chance to be able to make money. But at the same time, I mean, there's a reason we have salary caps in pro sports. And I kind of made the joke half tongue in cheek, but I really believe it. You're going to have no salary cap in college athletics. So it's a question of which programs can raise the most money to spend on players year in, year out. And it's really going to change the dynamics. And it also begs the question, which teams can get into the mix? Do you see a rise of some of these FCS programs, whether it's Jackson State? But last I checked, there are a lot of Ivy League programs who have a number of billionaires in their pipeline. And maybe we're talking about the Harvards and Yales pumping money into their athletic administration to go out there and win national championships and compete against the big boys. So I think it's going to be fascinating to watch unfold. I'm glad that I'm not responsible for protecting some of the welfare of these kids or the university as a whole. The great part about being a sports bettor, I'll assess these teams for the products they put on the field and try and make money one way or another.
Last thing I'll say, too, and Furman, you probably think about this, and I certainly do in the context of my kids. The money that you make off NIL, while decent, if you are a great athlete who goes on to a pro career, is a fraction of what you will make as a legitimate professional. So I do worry a little bit that people are worried about the pennies on the dollar that they can make as 18 and 19-year-olds, and they're not thinking about the $100 bills down the road. In other words, picking the right school and coach who can develop you as an elite level talent is far more valuable to your long-range future than what you might make in the short term by going to the school or the coach or the alum or the booster who offers you the most money.
Oh, and I would agree completely there. And I think that applies not only to athletics, but anything else in life. And this isn't to offer life advice for folks that are watching or hollow platitudes that are out there. I mean, do what you love more than anything else, and it'll pay dividends. I know people look at you with your 73 castles you have now, but I don't think they see the struggles behind when you bootstrapped Outkick from the start. You left multiple writing platforms, and you put the short-term potential gains of working for someone else in the rearview mirror, knowing what that pot of gold could be like at the end. And the same thing applies to me, going, you know what? Do I want to become a casino host to make more money in the short term, knowing what I really wanted to do from the sports gambling space and seeing some opportunity that was going to manifest itself? So whether you're a chemist, whether you're a businessman, whether you're a professional athlete that may be watching here, always put your long-term goals very close to you so you can build a game plan to try and get there. Don't be penny wise to be pound foolish in the grand scheme of things.
Amen. We'll talk next Thursday. Happy early holidays. Good luck. I didn't even know the bowl season was here. I've been so focused on the NFL and getting ready for this trip down to Key West. I appreciate all of you. This has been The Fade. I'm Clay Travis. He's Todd Furman.